Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Series 2 of Lockdown Conversations. And I hope you're all doing well out there and all staying healthy and well. Um, Great to have you here with us this evening, folks, for our weekly drama fix here on the ADCI page. And we look forward to this part of the week every week to get saying hello to all our drama friends around the country. You know the usual story, folks. A little comment in there on the bottom. Let us know where you're from, what festival group or what part of the country, even if you're not involved with a group, or if you're just watching in for the first time, let us know. And anyone that would like to stay in touch with our Facebook conversations, if you like or follow the ADCI Facebook page, and our very hardworking PRO puts up reminders earlier in the week to let everybody know who's on and when they're on. Okay, folks. Also, for any of the episodes that you've had missed, they're available on our YouTube channel, and that's ADCI, our Amateur Drama Council of Ireland YouTube channel, and you can catch up on all the episodes that have already gone by. Okay, so tonight, folks, it gives me great pleasure to welcome director, actor, adjudicator, and secretary of ADA, Imelda McDonagh. Imelda, you're very welcome to the conversations.
Thanks very much, Paddy. Thanks for having me on. It's the most exciting thing that's happened in the last year, I have to say.
Yeah, well, it's probably the only drama thing that's happening for a lot of people at the minute, but hopefully we'll get out the other side. So, Imelda, as I start every other conversation with all our guests, how did Imelda McDonagh find theatre, or how did theatre find Imelda McDonagh?
Well, it began in the sitting room of my parents' house. Mum and Dad were both involved with theatre, St. Aidan's Dramatic Guild in Enniscorthy. A lot of people would have known my dad, Harry Ringwood. And as a little child, if I was good, I was allowed to sit and watch rehearsal. So, you know, to a young child, watching actors transform in front of your eyes was just magical. And, you know, I got the bug. I believe I was on stage at age 6 with Dad, because concerts were a huge thing at the time. They used to have sketches and short plays. So that's where I got started. There was no drama in school those days, but Dad used to direct 6 of us, 6 friends of mine who all lived on Rectory Road in Enniscorthy, in one-act plays, and, you know, we'd put it on at any dogfight. So that's how I started.
Yeah. Wexford, as we know, is a hive for drama groups. There's drama groups every corner of Wexford. Like I was even surprised. I was talking to Breda Hayes here a few weeks ago, and like she was telling me of 3 or 4 groups alone that was around Ballycogley, you know, at the time. So what group did you start out with, Imelda?
Well, the first group I started with was Strand Players in Dublin, because, you know, there was nothing in Enniscorthy for somebody my age. Yeah. And what started me was I went to see some of their productions when I was in college, and I thought, this is it. I had done the diploma in speech and drama. I had finished my licentiate by the time I was 20. And I obviously wanted something more and more involvement. So I got involved with them, hard to get into. Peter and Anne O'Driscoll were the leading lights of the time. Joe Kelly, a lot of people would remember. And I suppose that's where I got my taste of festivals. I did Tom Murphy's On the Outside. It's a one-act play, which I'd love to see on the circuit again. It's a brilliant play. Yeah. And I suppose my biggest venture was in Peter O'Driscoll's Peer Gynt. They did very imaginative work, very different work. I played Anitra, the Houri, a dancing girl, I might add. I did very well on the circuit that year with Best Actress Awards, and I sometimes think it was the costume more than the performance that did it for me. But that was my introduction to it, you know.
Yeah, and Peer Gynt, of course, is a 3-act, but did you do both the 1-act and 3-act circuit?
Yes, yeah. And in Peer Gynt, one of the props was this larger than life-size horse. which I was astride at one stage, and in the Cavan Drama Festival in particular. Um, you know, play was going on, the action was down left, I was up on the horse, but I don't know if it's still the same way. There was a rake on the stage in Cavan, and this
Yeah.
horse was on a truck. And next thing, the wheels started to turn. And I was getting closer and closer to the edge of the stage. All I could see was the lip at the edge. I had a vision of me flying over the head of the horse, and I was trying to decide would I land on the adjudicator or in front of him. I could say nothing. I could do nothing because I couldn't interrupt the action. And as I kind of glided past, somebody caught the tail of the horse and held on to it. So I was saved from ignominy. But you know, there's some of the beautiful things that happen on the circuit, you know.
Absolutely, some
Yeah,
of the great memories.
yeah,
You're a teacher by profession,
that's right.
so of course you use drama an awful lot in your education and in teaching.
Yeah, one of the things that really kind of I found really liberating was the coming across the whole idea of drama in education, using drama as a teaching tool as well as an end in itself. Um, so I would have done a lot of training in that area. I taught English all my life, and so part of the English class was using drama as a teaching method, but also teaching drama opposite things like choir in transition year modules. Um, and I loved it. It was just fabulous. So that I was teaching and directing students all through my life, you know, and that's a great learning curve because, you know, you really do learn the nuts and bolts of what works and what doesn't
Mhm,
uh,
mhm,
over that long period of time, you know.
mhm.
Um,
Do
so yeah,
the working with the youth, of course, and students is so rewarding too, and to see what you can get out of a student that maybe not be a footballer or may not be a hurler or
yeah.
but then they have the wonderful ability to act.
Mm, mm. And I suppose it's the freeing of the imagination as well. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? And just having a safe space where, you know, ridiculous things can happen,
yeah.
but it's all directed towards an aim and it's a safe space, you know. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely, and it's a release to be somebody else for maybe that hour or them 2 hours
Exactly.
that
Don't we
they're up.
all know what that feels? It's
Yeah,
just nice to leave real life at home sometimes.
yeah. I think that's what keeps us all going.
Yeah.
Um, then you remember Gory Players?
I was. When I moved down to Gorey, got married, moved to Gorey. Obviously, I joined Gorey Little Theatre Group, and my husband was a member of that. He was a terrific lighting designer. You'd have gotten on well with him, Paddy. So I would have learned a huge amount about lighting from him and gone on after he passed away to actually design and light shows myself. But I would have been involved in every aspect. I was secretary there for over 10 years. I did a couple of festival plays with them. The Barretts of Wimpole Street, which you won't see done very often. Um, that was actually directed by Miles Purcell from Greystones. And I think he nearly holds a record. He actually had two plays in the All Ireland that year,
Wow.
Greystones and Gorey.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and you know what they say about you know, be careful about working with animals and children. Um, in the All Ireland, in a very emotional scene, Elizabeth Barrett has the little lap dog, and it was the most beautiful little dog, really well trained. But in the middle of this emotional scene, it toddled over to the fireplace, which of course was lit, peed on the fireplace, and then proceeded to climb out through it offset. So talk about being upstaged, do you know? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
You should never work with animals, and this whole COVID thing started. They reckon with a
yes,
bat. You have a story about a bat on stage as well.
I do. I do. This was years later, a co-production between Imp Productions, which I'll tell you about later, and Wexford Arts Centre, directed by Pat Burke and Paul Walsh. And we were doing Hedda Gabler, and I was playing the ant. And Wexford Arts Centre has a peculiar setup. You get dressed in a side room, they turn off the lights, and you walk by the side of the audience into backstage. Once you're backstage, that's it. There's no leaving it until the interval. And I suppose for this to make sense, I do need to explain that I'm really bad with birds. I have a terrible phobia. They're lovely the other side of glass, but let them into the house, I've been known to leave the house. Do you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
A student arrived in one day with a cockatoo on her shoulder. I was out in the corridor before I knew I'd even moved. You know, I just,
Yeah.
anything that flaps. So
Yeah.
anyway, I have the first 20 minutes and in this, the opening of Hedda Gabler, we had seen, we thought, something fly backstage. And I said to my co-actor, that's a bird, I'm gone. You're on your own. So anyway, out we go. I have a big furry hat on me, as befits Hedda's aunt.
Mm.
And the first I noticed was the audience kind of going like that. And there's a lot of side lighting, so I can see the shadow of something flying. So we were down low, lighting box was up at the back, and it seemed to be coming from whatever it was from the lighting box down to the stage, then would take off again. And it was the longest 20 minutes of my life. If I was adjudicating me, I tell you, I wouldn't be getting any acting awards. I couldn't look out front because I could see the thing. I had to profile. But the trouble was, every time I profiled, I could see the shadow on the floor.
Yeah.
I was told later that obviously it was a bat. It would fly down, hover over my head, deciding was it going to land and then take off again. So luckily, by the second time I came out, there was no hat and the bat had
Giving up.
gone off to roost somewhere, and the staff actually caught it the following day and released it. But I tell you, a long 20 minutes.
Yeah, like being so busy as a teacher and involved with Gory, you then decided to go to St. Pat's to do your masters. Like if your life wasn't busy enough.
Well, I do you know something? At that stage, I was really craving something new and something different. And I waited and waited for the 2-year part-time course in St. Pat's. I knew it was coming on stream. I couldn't afford to take a year off, but I could manage taking job sharing for 2 years,
Mhm.
and cross my fingers after that. But you know something, it was 2 of the best years of my life. You know, the exposure to new ideas, to creative people, to challenging projects. Like for one of the projects I did for my master's was a performance project to play Blanche in Streetcar.
Mhm.
And, you know, that was a really interesting experience. But I had Pat Burke, who's the course director, Peter O'Driscoll, another adjudicator, another tutor on the course, and an English lecturer. They all came to visit the show to assess it. But not only that, I was taken off by myself to a local hotel and quizzed for an hour by the 3 of them on it. So if people think that current adjudication is bad, that was the worst I ever had, do you know? But it was a absolutely brilliant experience, you know, and it has really stood to me in so many ways.
Out of that, and you mentioned them earlier, came the company In Productions.
Yeah, that was basically, the name came from Imelda, Martin, and Pat. Pat Burke, who
Mhm.
directed, Martin French, who was a graduate with me, and myself.
Mhm.
Um, we wanted to do something that was in the semi-professional sphere, that was targeted at art centres, international literature conferences that Pat was very involved with. And the first production we did was Frank McGuinness's Bag Lady, which, as you probably know, is a really challenging piece. You know, I think the toughest thing I've ever done. Um, our first performance was at an international conference in St. Pat's. So I go out for the opening, terrified, nervous. You don't know how this is going to go. And the movement was circular with chains, you know, hopping off the floor and so on. And I'd say a line, and somebody in the front row went to the people beside her. And I said another line, and she said the same thing. I discovered later it was the Japanese translator who was going to translate every single word I said from the front row. And I thought, oh, sweet Lord, how am I going to cope with this? Do you know, like I was struggling, you know, yourself to get your head in the zone, to stay there. And here you have this live translation going on. Well, I did a couple of circles as per script and found a point where I could stop right in front of her, hop my chains off the floor. I glared at the woman. I think I terrified her, but I terrified her into submission. And I was able to get on with the rest of it. I think they just guessed the rest of it. You know, so it went very well. We performed at the Dublin Theatre Festival, but apart from the 20 minutes with the bat, I think the next most challenging one was when we performed in the Dalkey Heritage Centre. Margaret Dunn set up an evening with Frank McGuinness spoke for about an hour. And I was behind a screen listening to him speak, ready to perform Bag Lady in front of the great man himself. Well, I tell you something, I'd say nearly died about 10 times. It was terrifying knowing that he was there, you know. But we got through it anyway, and I'll never forget the hug he gave me afterwards. And he just whispered in my ear, "You know Bag Lady, don't you?"
Yeah, well,
that was enough for me.
That's the greatest compliment you could get from the writer, you know.
Yeah.
When your time in productions, you came across another couple of animals. We had the bat and we had the horse moving on the stage in Cavan. You came you came across a dog and a rat in productions as well.
Well, the dog was the Barretts of Wimpole Street, but the rat actually goes back a bit. It goes back to a production from Gory Little Theatre Group. I was in the audience. My dad had directed it, and I was sitting beside him. And it was Happy Birthday, Dear Alice. And Biddy White Lennon was adjudicating. And the play is going beautifully. It's a lovely, of course, it was Dad's production, so I thought it was great. But next thing, down front and center appears a large rat on the stage. And immediately you can hear the audience go, "Oh, do you know what I mean?" And we saw the rat moving backwards and forwards. The actors kept going. I thought they were amazing. And next thing, the rat jumped down into the auditorium. Well, all hell broke loose. It was like a ship rocking because you could see people lifting their feet. Do you know what I mean? Ducking, diving, squealing, trying not to make a sound because the actors are keeping going. And of course, there's a lovely set of stairs up. The rat would keep going back up towards the set. And this went on. Now, I thought my father was going to have a heart attack because nobody knew kind of what to do. Do you know? Did somebody come in and stop it? I know Dad wanted to, but I kept saying to him, no, just hang on. And eventually, probably the caretaker in the Dunwera marched up the centre aisle, brush in hand. He gave a few good thumps at the rat, killed it, pushed open the doors. The fire doors are right beside the stage, to tumultuous applause, and the play went on. And Biddy White Lennon never mentioned the rat once. And I asked her years later, did she remember it? And why didn't she comment on the rat? And in typical Biddy style, she said, "I was there to adjudicate a play, not a rat." So that sorted me out. I think I'd have had to say something just to compliment the cast on keeping their focus and keeping going, you know.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You can't beat live theatre.
Oh, no. It's brilliant. They're all the joys of it, you know.
Yeah. As well as directing theatre, Imelda, and acting, you also direct a lot of musicals.
I do. I love it. I suppose I would have gotten involved with Avonmore Musical Society when I moved here to Arklow. Now, I'm not a singer. I do non-singing roles with them. So that really developed a love for me because I love the spectacle of the musical. And I had directed about 5 musicals in St. Mary's College in Arklow where I worked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so kind of I learned the ropes that way. So I would have worked with a lot of the societies in the area, but I have to say, I just love it. You have a production team. I love working with people. You have a cast of 50 to 80, usually, do you know? You have budget constraints, but it's the spectacle of it, the huge, wide landscape of it is one of the things I love, you know. Um, I, some of the ones that are my favorites would be shows like Evita. um, I did a production of the Halfpenny Bridge, which was a rewrite from a professional production before it was being taken to the States. So that was kind of set in Dublin in the 1920s. And most recently, a production of Michael Collins for Oyster Lane Theatre Group in Wexford, which won Best Overall Show. And I mean, it's the writing, the music is stunning, but the battle scenes, you know, it's the whole story of Michael Collins and his death. The fight with Dev, it was just stirring stuff to work on, with a superb cast and crew, you know.
Just on that there, the Ames and winning the Ames Award, which is fantastic. So I'm going to ask you to put on your adjudicator's hat for a minute. The difference in the adjudication, say for the musicals and then the adjudication for the plays, is there a big difference in the adjudicating of?
There is. Well, first of all, you have a traveling adjudicator.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 sections, which is the same as drama. So there's about 50 groups in one section and more than 60 in the other. So it's huge. And whereas in the drama circuit, you get to travel to 8 festivals, you get 8 goes at qualifying for the All Ireland, 8 goes at developing and improving. With the musicals, you have 1 shot. It's whatever night the adjudicator lands. And that's it, just your 1 shot. And you know yourself, a show can go brilliantly or mediocre or not so well at all. So from that point of view, it's very different in terms of, I suppose, feedback. You get written feedback. So that what they do is, as it were, a public adjudication, which is disseminated to the groups. And then there's a private one, which will probably, you know, highlight things that need development or improvement, you know. So from that point of view, there's a lot of similarities, but the difference is you only get 1 shot at it, you know.
It's quite different in some ways.
Yeah.
So, going to adjudicating then, when did you become an adjudicator?
Well, it followed on from the masters. Both Pat and Peter encouraged me to go down that route, and I would have qualified for acceptance into ADA probably 2001, 2002, but because I was still teaching, I could only do the odd festival that was within an hour of home. So, you know, I could get back for 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because you weren't going to get 10 days off.
No.
So I took early retirement in 2012, and that's when I really could go wherever I wanted. And of course, the freedom to be, you know, to just be part of something as terrific as a festival, absorb all the atmosphere, was absolutely great. That was one of the best bits of retirement, I have to say.
Yeah, being able to go away for a week too, and not have to worry about getting back to work the next day. You've adjudicated all over the country, Imelda, and you have done our 3 finals. You've done the open finals in Athlone, you've done the confined finals, and you have done the 1-act finals. So I suppose if I ask you, what is it that Imelda McDonagh looks for as an adjudicator?
I suppose it's the magic, isn't it? Do you know, the group that will take us someplace else and show us another world. And, you know, the trick, of course, is keeping us in that world, you know, so that it's something that touches your heart, that either makes you laugh or cry. But for me, it's the thing that lives on in my memory, because drama is so ephemeral. You know, you can video it, but it's never the same. It's never the same as the live performance. And the only thing we have left are those memories. So it's those magic moments that just won't leave you. That's what I look for.
Yeah, and then my next question to follow: do you have one or two of those moments that that stick with you forever, for either the right reasons or the wrong reasons? You know what I mean? So moments that you'll never forget as an adjudicator, or maybe just as an audience member, but also maybe moments that you'd like to forget.
Well, the animal ones I'd like to forget, but I think for me, the first production of Strands that I saw, and I was, probably about 20, I'd say, and they did a production of Marat Sad and later won the All Ireland with it. To me, that was mind blowing. It was innovative, it was daring, it was so challenging. The inmates in the asylum were on stage before you went in, they stayed there throughout the interval. It was so unsettling. And I remember seeing it in a place in Kimmage. I think it was Kimmage Manor, I'm not too sure, but it was like a seminary with dark corridors, and it was spooky at night. That feeling of disturbance has never left me. And it really kind of showed me what theatre can be, this transformative experience. I think as an adjudicator, one of the things that will always stay with me is the visceral emotional depth and savagery of Mercury for Silken Thomas. I met it twice on the circuit. I saw it 2 more times because I brought friends to see it. I'd have to comment as well on the winners of the 2 finals, the full-length finals, Mary J. Egan's Night Alive. That raw savagery in it was brilliant, from Doonbeg. And then, of course, Enemy of the People, Prosperous, which was, like, I love Ibsen, but this was a very modern take on it. And I loved the blend that they had of sophistication and naturalness. And it was like as if 2 worlds collided. It was magic,
Yeah.
The ones I don't want to remember, I don't want to talk about for obvious reasons.
Well, that's fair enough. I'm going to put on my director's hat here for a minute, and I'm going to ask you a question that maybe directors out there would want to know the answer. When you have a production or a play, and you meet a group and they're doing everything they can with it, and it's just not happening. How do you handle something like that as an adjudicator?
My experience would be that if something is not happening and the group have done everything they possibly can with it, and they love the play and they can't see any wrong in the play, that sometimes it's actually down to the writing of the play. That would be my experience. That, for a group who's maybe desperate to get results, who wants to advance, I would suggest maybe looking at established dramatists. It's like, let me put it this way: if you want to compete in the Tour de France, you don't want a wonky bike. You don't want a wonky bike with dodgy gears and no brakes. You want a really finely tuned instrument. And in a play, for me, that finely tuned instrument has really complex characters, a terrific sense of conflict and crisis, strong emotional moments. And as an adjudicator, what I do when I'm presented with plays to read, one of the things I do, apart from, reading the play, looking up the author, all the rest of it, is I read reviews of professional productions. The likes of The Guardian, The Times, the New York Times, where you have very experienced reviewers, and they will often highlight where the play doesn't work. Whether the pacing goes off or the dramatic intent is not strong enough. And I'd suggest to groups that whatever play they come across, to try and do that analytical research instead of just falling in love with the play and running with it, to see, is is the bike well enough built? Is the play well enough written? Because if you look back at winners of festivals, they are very, very often the really well written play, done really well. Whereas a play that's maybe not as well structured or polished or written, it's very, very hard for a group to get those magic highs and lows or laughs that a really strong piece of writing will get the group.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're secretary of ADA. I suppose the same as other groups around the world. You're all unemployed at the minute.
Totally, yes.
Nothing for adjudicators to do. I know from an ADCI point of view, we had discussions with you as a national body of an alternative competition, and you were doing some work to see would an alternative competition be possible. So maybe you can let us know how that went.
Well, when the ADCI suggested that, one of the options was a Zoom version, that, the adjudicator would be at home, but actually looking at the play on Zoom. One of the things we did as a group, just to trial it and find out what are the difficulties, is we all viewed an Abbey play at the same time and then did a Zoom conference in relation to not just how we found it, how could we adjudicate this? And the thing that kept coming up for us was that sense of distance, the missing of the live experience, that somehow when something is filmed that's on stage, it's so much flatter than when you're there. And we did all find difficulty with that. But as an organization, we're very keen to investigate ways in which we can upskill ourselves to meet whatever the need might be, because none of us knows what next year will bring. We hope it will bring a return to live theatre. But whatever it is, I think one of the key things from a group's point of view is that they get to stage their play. I think that was the heartbreaking thing, wasn't it, about last year?
Yeah.
That there were groups that had gems. They had slaved for months. They put their heart and soul into it, and some of them never got to the stage at all. So that whatever way things pan out,
There was even some of them qualified for an All Ireland.
was there, Paddy? And look what happened. The best laid plans.
God, yeah.
I know, but I think whatever happens, trying to have, whether it's a group performing in their own hall, a visiting adjudicator who travels around a bit like the AIM circuit, or an adjudicator who watches it on Zoom. I think something needs to happen. And as an organization, we see ourselves as there to support all the drama bodies and to offer suggestions where they might be helpful about how this might work.
It'll be challenging times ahead. Another thing you do in ADA and what you're doing at the minute, you mentor the newer adjudicators as they come in. So what's involved in that as such?
Well, if I can kind of take it back a little step.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
One of the things we're going to be doing in the next while, like when drama opens up again, is we will be recruiting new members. And that's always a very exciting time because you've new blood coming in, new ideas. And people often say, well, how does this system work? Well, it's a matter of application. We shortlist it. Generally, we would be looking for people with a vast experience of theatre, possibly educated to master's levels so that they have the required kind of literary knowledge or sufficient experience in theatre to match that. And then with the short list of people, we bring them in over a weekend so that you would have personal interviews, group interviews, workshops. We would give advice on how to deliver a live adjudication. And then we would have selected a play. We try and get an amateur production because this is what we work with. But
Yeah.
if not, it will be a professional production. If that just doesn't work out, the candidates will have been given the script in advance. And then I suppose the most challenging bit is the delivery of a live adjudication, because it's the fact that, you know, you've only one shot at this. You have to get up straight after the play. You have to be able to be coherent, put your thoughts together and deliver. So that's the process of getting in. Once people are in, then they're in as associate members, and the mentoring system is there to support them and guide them. So there would be a lot of training before they do their initial festivals. We would go through all the documentation from DLI, ADCI, so they're very familiar with that. And then one of the more experienced members will visit them at a festival, preferably when they don't know that we're coming. We usually liaise with the festival director and sort all that out. So we watch the play, we watch their live adjudication, then we frighten the life out of them probably and appear by their side and say, do you mind if we sit in at the private adjudication? Because that's as important, you know, just to be able to guide somebody how to discuss the play in a supportive and encouraging way. So there's at least 2 mentoring sessions. If they're doing well, they pass on to full membership. Sometimes we've had to have an extra session in there, you know, but usually it works very well. And I think people feel very supported and encouraged by it, you know, and it develops the sense of, I suppose, collegiality among us as well, you know, because it could be a lonely out spot.
Yeah, honestly, God,
It
honestly,
really is.
I can imagine. A thing that you have as a gift as an adjudicator is, and as well as helping groups and giving groups great feedback after, to get that rapport with the audience when you're doing a public adjudication is key, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. I think my style is very much influenced by teaching, where it was asking the rhetorical questions, and that has kind of evolved. And I did find myself at one stage, at some festival, asking a question and nearly sitting back waiting for an answer. You know, teacher mode had kind of kicked in my brain. But yeah, it is very much about trying to create that rapport, because it's not just a delivery of ideas, it's nearly a performance in itself, you know, and trying to be approachable and open and as honest as you possibly can be in a way that's supportive of the groups, you know, because any adjudicator will tell you it's only one opinion. Do you know? And you, like, we all know, we've all been where this adjudicator loved at your next festival, it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hard thing about it, isn't it?
That's it. I remember a good story. I remember when you adjudicated in Shark some years ago, and a lady, a season ticket holder of ours, I was asking her maybe after the third night, I said, I said, well, what do you think of the adjudicator? Oh, I love the way she asks their opinion. So that's why that question came up.
Yeah.
You were mid-process adjudicating when COVID struck. Had your festival done?
I was halfway through Ballyduff,
Okay.
the famous Hugh and his brilliant committee down there. And I mean, it was going swimmingly. It was a super festival. And on the day that it all collapsed, Wexford had actually arrived, set up, ready to go. And, you know, they were very organized. And, you know, for a couple of hours, we didn't know what we could do.
Yeah.
And there was discussions about, could you see it behind closed doors? Could you give an adjudication? But eventually the word became very clear. And, at 3 o'clock, we were there discussing all this. At 5:30, I was in my car going home.
Mm-hmm.
So were Wexford.
Yeah.
And it's that shock of it's like the rug being pulled out from under you.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it was like for any of us, it was the groups my heart went out to,
Mm-hmm.
because there were plays I never got to see
Mm-hmm.
that I'd heard wonderful things about. There were groups who hadn't even started the festival circuit, and I think whatever happens next year, we really need plan A, B, and C, so that, if A doesn't work, there's a fallback to B. And if that doesn't work, there's a fallback to C. So the groups get to stage their plays. But I
And
was
that
also,
we get to see stuff.
I know. Yeah, that's why I said, like, this is the most exciting thing that's happened all year.
Yeah.
I was also in the middle of directing a musical for Enniscorthy Musical Society, the producers.
Okay. Yeah.
We had about 7 weeks in at that stage, with probably about another 5 to go.
Mm.
And I mean, we had the dream cast there. It was shaping up to be a really good show. So I know what it's like from the other side as well, where, your baby never gets born, so to speak. It never gets legs and walks.
Please God, it will again
Yeah,
in 22, or maybe hopefully one accent in 21 would be absolutely
be
amazing.
wonderful.
Imelda, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Lockdown Conversations tonight. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us an insight in behind the lady that was that's up on the stage live from your study in Wexford. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Paddy. And can I give a big shout out to Clare Drama Festival and the Radio Drama Festival that's going on. I think it's wonderful for the groups. Paul Brennan, our member, is the most envied adjudicator in Ireland at the moment.
Yeah,
and he's the perfect man for the job. He's a huge background in radio drama. So a big shout out to all of those.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see everybody on the circuit next year.
Hopefully. Thank you, Imelda. That is, folks, just to recap on that Clare Drama Festival in association with Scariff Bay Community Radio are running that inaugural Clare Drama Radio Play Festival competition, which begins this Saturday night, the 27th of February on Scariff Bay Community Radio at 8 p.m. 20 groups have entered. One-act plays, the majority being new plays written especially for radio. Over the next 6 weeks, and every Saturday night and on Sunday nights from the 7th of March, 2 plays per night will be broadcast on Scariff Bay Community Radio from 8 p.m. And the festival will culminate in a final adjudication and award ceremony on Easter Sunday, the 4th of April at 8 p.m. also. Kicking off the festival on this first week, there will be broadcasting The Apprentice by Joe Bergen. Joe, very well known insight drama in Selbridge, and Where is the Malabar? That was written by Liam Howard from in County Cork, and that's going to be produced by Doonbeg Drama Group, and Mary J is directing that one. That was on here with us a couple of weeks ago. So if you want to tune in, you can tune in by www.scariffbayradio.com or click on Listen Live button, or you can tune in via the radio app on your phone or tablet. And on behalf of the ADCI, I just want to wish Tom Hanley and all the people in Clare Drama Festival, who I know have put in a massive effort into getting this off the ground, this brilliant idea to keep us all in touch with drama. So tune in to Scariff Bay Radio this Saturday night, and we wish Tom and all the people involved with this, and especially their adjudicator Paul, we wish him the best of luck. Okay, folks, that's been it from me for Lockdown Conversations. Next week, we have all the way from Rossmore in County Cork, we have the wonderful Ger Finn, who's going to be on to have a chat with us. Ger's a world of knowledge of drama and has been involved since the late 60s, early 70s down there in Rossmore. with the Rossmore Drama Festival and St Mary's Hall and the group down there, Kilmeen Drama Group. So we look forward to having Ger on next week. Okay, folks, that was it. That was Imelda McDonagh. I'm Paddy Farley. Thanks for joining us on Lockdown Conversations. We hope to see you next Thursday night. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you then.